Machine.
Hi there, it's Claire Lim here, and this is Hot Pod Time Machine. This is the podcast where we talk about a decision from our past which changed the trajectory of our future. And I'm very happy to welcome on this episode, it's the lovely Stuart Ashen. Hello, Stuart. Thank you for joining me.
Hello. Thank you for inviting me on.
Thank you very much. Now, I ask every guest this question. When I asked you to be in this podcast and told you what it was about, what went through your mind? Because we make so many decisions every single day. So what ran through your mind?
I was trying to think of a major decision I'd made, and I couldn't really come up with many because so many things I've done in the past all kind of... When I think of the really big decisions, I do wonder how much actual input I had into them with hindsight, because a lot of, half of everything is chance, blah, 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 etc. But like, I don't know, some of them, I came up with what I thought was the perfect response. And we'll maybe discuss this in a bit, but when I thought about it, I was like, do you know, I'm not sure I had any actual input into that at all. Now I sit there and think about it, I had no choice. I was like, oh yes, this was a big choice I made. I thought, well, what else would I have done?
I feel like you're selling yourself short. I'm sure you've made some big decisions. It sounds like, look, guys, Stuart just goes through life letting everyone else make decisions for him, falling into
plan pour moi.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't quite work like that. But when you're trying to think of the big ones and the ones that have had such an effect, and you go back and you go, oh, actually, now with hindsight, I'm not sure that was a bloody decision. But we'll see.
Can I ask, before I ask you the big question of the podcast, what do you think it would be like if everyone in your life made decisions for you and you made no decisions? Do you think you would function better or worse?
I would assume a lot worse, mainly because nobody else in my life even vaguely understands what I do for a living. So it would collapse very, very quickly. Plus, I'm great and everyone else is rubbish. No, that's not true.
I love that. Okay, then. All right. Okay, so tell us about the big decision you made in your past which changed the trajectory of your future. Go for it.
Certainly. So, many years ago, good God, 10 years ago now. No, 10 or 11 years ago now.
Okay.
Oh, man, that's just hit me like a truck. Great.
We are old.
Hello. Yes. It was at a party, and a party for a production company we were doing some work with at the time for internet-related stuff. And I saw a guy who I know who I'd worked with on a previous project, an advertising thing, which we had done very well with. And I just thought, do you know what? We can make a movie. So I went up and said, oi, Riyadh, because that's his name, Riyadh. Could we make a film? And he said, maybe, it'd be a big risk, but would we get the money? Blah, blah. I said, let's do it. And it was just this weird spur of the moment thing where it's kind of just not necessarily something that I hadn't thought of before, but it's just sort of, maybe, I never thought of it. And when I saw him, because he is a director and writer as well, and a very clever man who makes things happen, I just thought, do you know what? Sod it. This is the decision. Right, we're going to make this now. Are we going to make this a thing? And Riyadh also is somebody who's very driven, and we just sort of said, yeah, all right then. And that then completely changed, not only pretty much what I've done ever since in a way, but certainly completely changed all the work we were doing at that time, because everything moved from basically keeping things ticking over on internet related stuff to we are making a film, which, as you will know, if you've ever made a film, is a right pain in the bum.
Yes, that's quite an interesting one, actually, because you were saying, I'm not sure if that is a decision, but your decision actually to go up to Riyadh and go, let's do this. Where did that come from? Was it literally just like, I want to do this? Or have you actually always secretly in the back of your mind wanted to make a film?
I think probably in the back of my mind, certainly. It's one of those things, though, you just never think is feasible. From a young age, I was one of those people who's always sort of convinced, or obsessed with what's happening on the screen and how do you control what's happening on the screen, whether that's be, making television or films or whatever, or playing video games is the most obvious one, isn't it? There's a lot of crossover in these things, I think, as a result of that sort of, this stuff on the screen is cool, how do I get into that? But it was one of those things when I grew up on a housing estate and nobody made films. strangely enough. That wasn't a council estate thing. And when you go to sort of when you go to a school where nobody's got any money, nobody's going, oh, and I think I'll grow up to be a film director. You're like, oh God, I hope I can get in my exams so I can work for the company that makes the car alarms, or I'll starve. It's all far more sort of, your head is more in that sort of space. But as time went on, and I got the skills and practice to write scripts and all this kind of stuff, it sort of became that you can branch out more and do more that you never thought was possible before. But then having made this, give you the details. It was something called The Proxy, which was like a 10-part. It was effectively an advert for Dell Alienware computers, really. But we did it as like a 10-part sci-fi series thing. And it became obvious that not only was Riyadh a good writer and director, but he had all the contacts to actually produce them, because he comes from a film background. And like when we were shooting this thing, it's like, this doesn't feel like the usual internet video stuff. Everybody here is from a film set, and they're all sort of, doing it on the day off as a favor kind of thing. And so like, maybe if we have a word where we can, yes, on it, let's do it. It was almost sort of like that. So it was like, is this feasible? Yes. I'm going to check if it's feasible. Apparently it is feasible. Right. That is what we're doing. That is our plan for this year and possibly beyond. We are going to make a film.
I love that, because like you said, you didn't think it was feasible, or it's not a career path from where you grew up that people would commonly say this is what, and they might think it. They might think, I want to be a musician or an actor or something creative. And I feel like a lot of the time, depending on where you grew up and how you grew up, you are kind of like funneled into what, I guess, society, they want you to do. You know what I'm saying? I mean, even like, I went to like a fairly good school and everything, and there was a lovely art department and a great music department and all of that kind of stuff. But in the 90s, being a comic book artist, what? That's what I wanted to do, or I wanted to be a musician, and they were like, oh, you're a hippie. It was that kind of like, it was very strange. Hippie.
Oh yeah, my school was not a good school. It was effectively closed down a few years after I left, possibly burnt, and they salted the earth. I can't remember. And yeah, I mean, our careers advisor was somebody who came in and you saw him for 5 minutes. That was it. That was your entire career advice. That and that weird cascade form thing you did, where you tick lots of boxes and they put it in a computer, and it came out and said, "We think you should be a solicitor," or something like. Well, probably can't afford to do the exams for that, but thanks.
Yes.
Somebody got wig maker, by the way.
Wow.
Why was wig maker even in the computer?
Because
Ridiculous.
Clearly the computer had like an 1800s chip in it or something like that.
You should be a chimney sweep.
Yeah, totally. Oh my God, you should be a chimney sweep wig maker. Like, my careers advisor was this woman. Again, she came in like once a week to like service maybe the whole school or whatever year group she had to see that week. And I went to her once. I was really confused. I was about to leave school, in fifth year, which is the sort of, we had 6 years in high school. In fifth year, you can leave if you get very good grades in Scotland, or you were allowed to do that. If you got very good grades, you could leave. You could go to university and you could apply, or you could do an extra year, whatever. And I was confused because I hated school and I wanted to leave, and I don't like hierarchy of any sort. I just don't like being told what to do. So I went to the careers advisor and she was like, okay, I'll help you. So what do you like? And I was like, I like art and I like music, and I'm really good at German and English. You can tell, and that's what I was good at. She went, okay, right. She looked in her little book and she was like writing things down. And funnily enough, she went, have you thought about law? Like, and that was it. Like, so what were they trying to make us all solicitors back in the...
That's what I got. Yeah.
Wow.
And from what you've described there, my background wasn't that similar in what was going on at school. So it's just like, can they read and write properly? Yes. Lawyer, wig maker, lawyer.
So, okay. So if we had both followed the advice of our careers advisors and gone to law school, and then we had met, right? And we were going to start like a law firm. Okay. What kind of law firm do you think we would be? And what would the cool law firm name be as well, and what would we fight against? What would be our thing?
Oh God, it would have to be like crusading ones,
Yeah.
like from a Disney miniseries or something.
Yeah.
And it'd have to have a name like Falcon and Wilderbeast or something.
Nothing
You can
to
decide if you're Falcon or Wilderbeast. That's up to you. I don't mind.
I will be Wilderbeast. I'm not elegant enough to be.
She picked a good one.
I'm not. Why? Okay. Okay. I would embody Wilderbeast because I feel like as a lawyer, okay, because it's with personality, right? I say how it is. I'm a wildebeest in the courtroom.
Oh, nice.
And I'm known for my temper, right? So you're Falcon. Okay, so why are you Falcon?
Falcon, because I fall over a lot, and effectively I'm so incompetent in the law room that the whole thing is a con.
So you're the shit one and I'm the good one.
That's exactly it. Yep. But at the end, I always come through because Disney.
Yeah, totally. Then maybe we do like a Thundercats moral of the story at the end.
Remember, kids, it may look like fun to eat lots of poison, but it could make you sick. Don't do it.
And literally Snarf appears. Literally Snarf appears.
Yeah, it's just in the courtroom all the time. Snarf, snarf.
Snarf.
I declare a mistrial, snarf. I don't know why he's the judge now, but there we are.
Snarf just appears. Yeah. It is like, and that's the moral of the story. If you do art and music in school, you make a great lawyer. And then we all do our thumbs up at the end. Or we have to go like back to back and do like that. You have to kind of like.
Oh yeah, that's it, like that. What was that TV show where Mr. T was a lawyer with a female partner?
No, what? I don't remember that at all.
Oh, this is one to look up on YouTube. It was called something like T and T or something like that. I can't remember.
Really,
and nobody remembers it. I saw somebody streaming it on Twitch the other day, so
wow,
there we are. It does exist.
Funny that no one remembers TNT.
Yeah, the one where Mr. T was a lawyer.
It's a mood. That is a mood. Oh my god. So let's go back to the movie stuff. Okay, I wanna know that. Okay, so when you made your first movie, okay, when you made the first film, did you have slight imposter syndrome first day on set? I mean, were you like, oh my god, was there any point when you were making it going, oh, we're making a film? Kind of like in Wayne's World where they go, Delaware, I'm in Delaware. And you're kind of standing on set going, a film set, I'm on a film set. How did you feel making that first one?
It isn't that bad, mainly because film sets are entirely unglamorous. I'm sure if you're making something like, I don't know, the Infinity War and they've got like $1 billion million, it's probably a lot posher. But if you're not, it is basically some people with cameras and there might be some crisps. And that's pretty much it.
Nice.
But yeah, it's slightly nerve-wracking, I suppose. It was one of those things, I knew the people and I knew they were good. And I knew I could do my bit, and that was all that really mattered. So you just have to have immense faith in other people. I think this is why a lot of people can't do it, because especially when you start off on the internet and you have complete control over every little facet of what you do. You know, you're writing it, you're appearing in it, you're editing it, you're doing the socials, you're doing the metadata on the upload, you're doing absolutely all control. And then suddenly it's like, well, I got to give up most of the control now. You know, which that doesn't worry me too much. I like the collaboration stuff, and if they're people I trust, you know, people are like, oh, I can't have somebody else edit my stuff. I'm like, well, a professional editor is going to do a better job than I am. I mean, I can edit, but like, they're going to be a lot better because they do it all day, every day. They're going to have a better sort of feel for it. You know, you have to find your role, so to speak, and try and stick to it and not get in other people's way and mess them up.
So how long have you been a control freak for, Stuart?
You see, that's the thing. I kind of don't have the control freakery thing. I think that's why I've been able to do these sort of bigger things without much of a problem, because I don't get worried if I'm not in control of everything. As long as you trust the other people, I don't have a problem with that.
Same.
And if you're getting professionals in, you can pretty much trust them as a general rule. You know?
I'm more of a control freak just with my own things. If it's like internet content creation type stuff, or the trajectory of my career, not so much if I'm working in teams, but when I actually really enjoy collaborating with people, I really enjoy working in teams, and I love seeing people work. I really enjoy learning from other people as well. So it's
Yeah.
a really interesting process when you're on a set as well. I love like seeing how the cameras work and listening to the conversations as well, going, oh, that's how they do that. Okay, that's how they do that. Did you learn a lot from that first film?
God, yeah, absolutely, exactly as you say. You keep an ear out, and oh, that's what that means. Oh, let's see what they're doing there. Oh. And after a while, obviously, you say the same things over and over and get sort of more of a feel to it. But at the start, there are so many little things going on that you wouldn't necessarily think of, or you don't know how it all fits together, and who does what.
Yes.
What does a key grip do? Nobody knows. I still don't know. We've never afforded a key grip. But they move the equipment around if anybody actually cares. But we just
Oh,
do that ourselves.
so
Yeah.
why did they call them key grips?
Key. Oh, that's a good question. Well, grip because they're in control of equipment and stuff. Often lights. Some key grips will only do lights. Most key grips will be in charge of sort of the equipment. And the best boy is my favourite named one. I think he's the guy. Again, we've never even come close to getting a best boy, but I think they're the assistant for the person in charge of the lights. Or sometimes the assistant for the key grip if the key grip isn't doing the lights.
Ah, yeah, because you look at the credits. I used to love just waiting for the best boy to show up. I'm like, there he
I'm the
is.
best boy.
Yeah.
It's given a big lollipop.
I've been a best boy at least 5 times.
I've got a sticker like when I went to the dentist.
I
I was the
love.
best boy.
I am the best boy. I used to love seeing that come up. I mean, I've never been in a film. It's a big dream of mine. That's like a big dream to be in a film one day, even if I've got the tiniest part in the world, because I've always been really obsessed with sets. Like, just I worked on sets, but I really enjoy being on sets and things, and just look at I just like learning. And I love film and I love television. So it's always like a real joy when I do get to be on a set. Oh God, I feel so at home and I feel very comfortable. Did you find that straight away? Did you find it quite a comfortable experience just to be working on a set or behind a camera and with crew?
Yeah, I did really. I suppose it helps that I've been recording my own stuff for years, as small as it is. It gives you a sort of rough idea of what fits where. But yeah, I have always liked it. I've never gone on a set and gone, "Ooh, terrifying." And then again, if I'm sure if I walked in on bloody, I don't know, Star Wars Episode 93, Grogu's new hat or something, it'd be terrifying because everybody's probably far more regimented and they've got like horrifying hierarchies. And if you need to get a message to the director, you can't just talk to the director. You have to give it to like three people who pass it up the chain or something. And I imagine that's quite intimidating. But on smaller stuff, where you've got a smaller crew than the biggest crews in the world. That's not difficult. And you can actually speak to people directly. It's not so much of a worry, I don't think.
So you decided to make this decision to make this film, and went ahead with it. Now let's talk about the present. How did that decision change you? Let's talk about creatively first. Did it change you at all creatively, or do you think you'd still be the same
Ooh,
person?
yeah, a big style it does. I think because the only things I'd written before were like maximum of like 3 or 4 minutes that I'd actually tightly scripted, and these things are like 90 minutes, obviously. Well, 100 for hours. So that's like such a different process to get something that's where the narrative is so much longer and you've got to fill it full of stuff and then control exactly where it's going, etc. It gives you this sort of much bigger picture sort of feeling, which is something I'd never had to deal with before. And once you've done that once, it does make you sort of think about things slightly differently. The other thing it does, and this from a different point of view, especially when you're making comedy or involved at all in editing comedy, is keeping things briefer. If things go on too long and you ruining the pacing in a film is terrible, no matter what sort of film. In comedy, it's particularly a crime, So now, whenever you watch anything now, I'm like, this is going on a bit long, isn't it? I
Oh,
should have cut that a bit there. And it's something also people pick up on. Even people who just watch a lot of films, I've noticed they get to a certain point and they become aware of this scene's too long. And as soon as you reach that point in your sort of film knowledge, it becomes something that sticks like a bloody sore thumb. It really does. A lot of it comes from directors who also do the editing, and I think over the period of time they lose that kind of distance from the end product. Sometimes they're like, oh, I've got to have this bit in there, and you're watching it and going, you've killed this scene dead. Why is this still going on? You've made your point. It's easily done. It is easily done.
That's a good point. I guess, like, if we think about like film, I sometimes watch things and I think I understand maybe why this has gone on a bit too long, why these characters have made this choice, or why you've inserted this line, but it does feel like a personal choice. And it doesn't maybe feel like, for me, sometimes I feel like it's a choice of the director, or it's a selfish choice to go, well, no, I find this funny and this is the way we're going with it and that's it. But sometimes it's not what audiences want necessarily.
That's it. You've got to be so careful to not think, oh, this is really clever, I really want people to see this, or oh, this is my funniest bit. There's the old saying that editing comedy is killing your darlings, isn't it? But it really is. You have to cut out so many bits that you do actually like, because the overall flow of it is so important.
Oh, 100%. Has that spoiled the way that you watch films now as well? Do you sit back with your partner and go, that scene's about, I would have done that differently?
It does that thing where when you're watching something and it's all good, you're like, fantastic, you're engrossed in it, but as soon as they make there's always one or two things that you are more heightened to yourself, whether you've made that mistake yourself or you've just spotted it a lot or whatever, and as soon as one of those things comes up, it's suddenly, whoop, hang on, I've knocked out of here. My three things are, the minor one is scenes going on too long, because that does kind of happen. And to be fair, if you're watching something which was made for, old school broadcast television, they often had to be a specific length. So often things will be weirdly cut or weirdly extended, because it has to be exactly 28 minutes or whatever. So we'll give them a pass on that. More modern things, not so much. The second thing is characters that don't need to be there or could have been merged into another character. This, for me, comes from reading other people's scripts, and it's one of the most common errors. And I've done it myself, even knowing of the error. Our script for the Polybius heist, the early drafts had a character in it who was completely pointless and didn't need to be in it, but it was in there because both me and Riyadh, the writers, both loved the character. And when we gave it to people for notes, everybody went, what's this character doing in there? And we were like, yeah, we know, I suppose, deep down.
Oh, no.
But we love this character. Now we must exterminate her. And she was exterminated. We've never brought the character back, but one day we shall. So it's one of those things that's it's so easy to fall into the trap. So, but when you do see it, or when I see it now, it kind of always think, you could have made this a lot simpler, and you've made it more difficult for no reason. But the big one for me, which I've never got involved with personally, weird CGI faces.
Okay, what's your stance on weird CGI faces?
They rarely work. They really do rarely work. A great example, Rogue One, the Star Wars film, where they have the non-Peter Cushing in there with the CGI face. Yeah. He looks completely convincing about 5% of the time. And the other 95% of the time, every time he was on screen, it knocked me out of the cinema through the doors into the chicken shop opposite. I mean... It's such a shame.
It's very, very weird. The human eye can pick up. I mean, it's great. The technology is absolutely brilliant. If you really think about it, well done. Okay, but at the end of The Mandalorian season 2, and you're like, okay, who's this badass? Who's this badass? And spoiler alert if you've not seen it, but come on, I think everyone's seen it by now. You're like, who's this badass? And I kind of had an idea, kind of knew what might come. And then they get unveiled, and it's Luke, young Luke. And they do a good job of obscuring his face in shadow for a lot of the time. But then in the Book of Boba Fett, when you see him in the light, you're like, it's very strange.
He looks a lot better in Book of Boba Fett than he does when you see his full face at the end of Mandalorian season 2, which is just... To cut a long story short, the person I was watching it with asked me who the alien was who turned up at the end. I'm like, it's not an alien, it's bloody Luke Skywalker. It's not fucking Luke Skywalker. He's got a face like a bloody... No, that's some sort of attempt to recreate... I don't know what it was, but they had like this extreme reaction to it. They didn't even like pass it as a human face. So I don't think it was that bad, but
It wasn't
for
that
them,
bad.
it really didn't work.
Oh, that is amazing. Who's that alien, by the way?
Yeah, another proppy face one. God.
Well, have you ever... Okay, what would your stance be if you write something one day, you want to put your young self into, say this is 20 years time, you want to put very young Stuart into it. Would you do that CGI face thing? No? Would you...
Absolutely not. Just cast a young actor who looks vaguely like me. It doesn't matter. People know it's not real anyway. It's a film.
So what's the obsession now? Because we have young Indiana Jones about to be, so it's Harrison Ford in this new Indiana Jones film, and he's gonna like do the CGI young face thing. The CGI young face thing, that's exactly the terminology that they use in Hollywood.
It is. Absolutely.
So we got this film. It's a new Indiana Jones film. Yes, I'm listening. And we're not gonna cast a young actor. We're gonna have the young face CGI technology. You in? Sure.
And it's gonna look fucking dreadful. Yeah.
God. So what's your... I mean, why are they obsessed with having not... Because when back in our day, Stuart, they would just cast a young actor, and that would be it. And I was fine with that. Why? What's happening now?
The easy answer to that is, two aspects of it. Aspect number one is they still want the big name of the box office draw. So it's like, yes, Harrison Ford is in this film for all the 90 minutes, but most of it, it's like some weird CG thing. Yeah, but it's still Harrison Ford, isn't it? You see? So it's control of that, but ultimately as well, it's control then of the actual actor's likeness. So if something happens to the actor and they, fall off a cliff or just get old and die or whatever, perhaps we can still keep using them in some manner. But now we have complete control over what they do. Now they're not going to go on Twitter and, say weird things and upset everyone. They're not going to do anything except be in our computer, and we can make them dance as we need to. That is, I think, the end goal, and I'm hoping we never get there.
Skynet. Skynet's taking over Hollywood. I knew it.
Yeah. But it's the ultimate thing. You've got an actor who doesn't talk back and is known to everyone. What more do they bloody want, And they have to pay them very little because they're dead.
Do you think that this I always joke about Skynet. I always go, haha, Skynet, ha ha ha. I've been joking about it for about 20 plus years. Haha, Skynet. And the more things that happen and the more years that pass, I'm like, haha, Skynet. Do you know what I mean? Like, do you think we're going to enter the Skynet era soon?
What do they call that? The singularity or something. The problem is when they keep giving control of systems over to machine learning algorithms. I think that's where you actually get something close to Skynet. Perhaps not that close, but this thing of computers controlling everything and you don't really know what the computer's doing. And I mean, the dreaded YouTube algorithm they always talk about that pushes videos, that's a machine learning algorithm. And any given stage, YouTube isn't entirely sure what it's doing. They just kind of look at the results afterwards and then try and tweak. So, yeah, that's been running for years. And now with the proliferation of things like ChatGPT and these other sort of machine learning things becoming more and more widespread, maybe that will become more of a thing.
So so computers are on some platforms, so the algorithm, which is machine run, so say for YouTube, is already controlling the way that we consume media.
Oh yes, and they've got similar things behind Netflix for your recommendations.
Yeah.
There's something today on Spotify where if you are a Spotify artist and you have your music up on there, you can give up a percentage of your revenue from Spotify to have it promoted more through their algorithm.
So we're not in control. We're already not in control of what we like or dislike.
A lot of it genuinely only after the fact. They see what the machine learning algorithm does and goes, well, we better tweak that this way or that way. But ultimately, it's already done it first.
Oh my God. But do you think, Stuart, let's think of it, right? Let's think about the world we live in right now, because quite frankly, it's a bit of a bin fire. We all know this. Do you think, the whole point of Skynet was that they were like, computers are going to just do it for you. Humans are a disease. I mean, that's the thing of most sci-fi. Humans are a disease. We must eradicate you. It is only logical that we take over because you cannot manage yourselves. Every sci-fi movie, like The Matrix, whatever else. Do you think we would be better run if machines did take over? Do you think?
I think it'd be even worse because they're not even sentient, are they? They just kind of pretend by spewing out data that it's culled from somewhere. So eventually, the machine would take over the world, be running it, and then it'd get stuck in a loop and force everyone to perform the entire scripts to Mortal Kombat the movie over and over and over. You know, that's what eventually is going to happen. They'll just break down or get stuck in weird loops as computer stuff always does.
Look, I don't want the computers to take over because we've all seen what happens when we're forced underground. Zion and distressed jumpers. I know that I will not look good in a deliberately distressed jumper, and I do not want to go raving in Zion. I'm not up for it. I'm not into it. Not into
No,
it.
absolutely rubbish. Just in a muddy hole with no shoes for the rest of your life. Rubbish. Not interested.
If you had a role in the world of Zion, I asked this actually on a stream. It was a couple of nights ago. If you were in the world of Zion, what would your role be? Like, because they've all got like jobs. Everyone in the apocalypse has got a wee job to do. So what would your job be in the apocalypse?
I reckon I'd do the most important of jobs, which is that kid, the annoying kid with the spoon. Like
Yes.
there is no spoon. Just to give him a slap every so often to keep him in line. I reckon that is the most important job in the entirety of the Matrix. Because if that kid gets really out of control, everyone will just give up. Just I can't be dealing with him. No, let the machines win.
Oh
Can't be
my
dealing with this bloody
god,
kid anymore.
he's on to forks and knives, you guys.
Yeah. Oh God! Look, if he gets into the knife drawer, that's it. I'm going to open the blast shield myself. Yeah.
I like the idea that you're sitting on a ship, watching the kind of the green and the black. And you're like, I gotta go into the Matrix. Why? He's like, spoon kids at it again.
just turns up in there and then leaves. Doesn't say a word. Yeah.
That's it. You just leave and he's like, ah. You're like,
Yeah.
that'll learn you. See you next week. Like, that's it. Goddamn program won't learn. Like, God.
They never made an AI strong enough to be able to deal with it. Yeah.
God damn it. But but again, like, I love this podcast because it's always like a winding road around the decision. If you had not made the film, you would still be doing, your YouTube channel and everything else. Okay. Do you think you would have got to the filmmaking eventually, or do you think you'd be doing something else right now? And what would you be doing? TikToker? Huge TikToker?
Oh God, TikToker. I'm too old. I don't understand. Oh, do I have to explain to people how, I don't know, potatoes work? Is that how TikTok is now? I don't think I would have got into it at all. I think it's one of those things where I realised there was an opportunity there, because you need people who really know what they're doing to make a decent film. And if you end up trying to force it yourself with your mates or something, you're probably not going to end up with something that good. You've got to really have the experience to go in at the deep end and be able to surface with something that's actually watchable at the end of it. Yeah, I think I'd have probably done some short stuff and maybe worked my way up. But then how would I have got the money to fund it, you see? It's very difficult. It's one of those things where you just realize the stars are aligned. It's like, right, that is it. We're going to do this now, because if I don't think there will ever be another chance to do it properly.
I feel like, because you're really subconscious in the back of your mind, always wanted to do it. I feel like you would have found a way, and I think...
I think I would have done, but I'd have probably made something that was really bad. I'd be like the Neil Breen of Norwich or something. It'd just be absolutely terrible, Well, probably not quite that bad.
What do you think? Okay, if you hadn't had Riyadh and you hadn't met all the people you'd met, and you were like, right, okay, say it's right now, and you're like, you know what, guys, I'm going to just make a film. So I'm just going to do it. What would that film look like without your knowledge?
Oh my God. Absolutely dreadful. It'd have scenes that are far too long. It'd have a character that just doesn't need to be in it and could have been integrated with another one. It would not have CGI faces because you couldn't afford that. It would be probably really amateurish, probably incredibly difficult to watch, and it would have been received badly, and that would have been that. I'd have been sort of thought, oh God, I messed that one up, and probably never try again.
You know what?
That would be my guess. Or maybe it'd have been the greatest artistic auteur film ever made.
And that
But
film,
that seems statistically unlikely.
it would have been called Wilderbeast and Falcon.
There we are.
I mean, that's,
Crusading lawyers for all justice.
yeah, featuring Snarf.
Could you imagine going to the people who own Thundercats and going, we really need to license Snarf for our courtroom dramas?
Or maybe we just do it like a courtroom Snarf, but he's not we'll call him Snorf instead.
Yes. Legally distinct Snarf.
So we can use him, and he talks like this or whatever.
Good afternoon, it's me, Snarf.
And his moral
Yep, down for
advice
that.
is really bad at the end. He's like,
You should steal more things. No.
oh, Snarf! At the end, everyone just stands and laughs.
Oh, Snorf, you crazy, insane, non-copyright infringing monster.
Oh, Snarf. You know what? This is the show that needs to be made. I'm telling you. You've never made a series before, have you? Well, you have now.
No. There we are. We'll kickstart it, get 12 pence, and it'll be the greatest thing ever.
You know what? I reckon all the Thundercat stands will come out and they'll be up for it.
They'd want real Snarf, though. We could never afford that.
If we look, we'll just hint at it. We'll hint, but then they'll get Snarf, and we'll be like, what?
Hint of Snarf sounds like the worst perfume ever.
Or it sounds like something that would star like Willem Dafoe in the 80s, and they're really. You know what I'm saying? Candle wax not included. Oh! God. Hint of Snarf featuring Willem Dafoe. It's like
Molly Ringwald for some reason. Yeah.
I don't know why Molly's in it as well. Stuart, it's always a pleasure. Thank you very much for chatting. I really enjoy these podcasts. I say this at the end of every podcast because every episode is a totally different flavor, because the person that I'm speaking to always flavors and colors the vibe of the episode, which is lovely. I like how there's not even a format. We were like, oh yeah, you did that, cool. Right, so Snarf, great.
Straight into Snorf.
Straight into Snarf. Almost kind of like our Real Imagine Futures podcast. Almost, which you guys should subscribe now.
Yes,
Subscribe.
do that now.
Subscribe
quickly.
right now. Go right now. Stuart, please tell the people where they can find you and what you've got coming up next.
Certainly. Have a Google for Ashens, Ashens, and you'll find all my stuff. And this year, we're probably going to start making another film, but not a comedy this time.
Ooh.
Can you believe it? Yeah, we're branching out, and hopefully we'll survive.
I know kind of what it is, but I'm not going to say anything. It's a big top secret.
Thank you.
Okay. It's a courtroom drama featuring Snorf. Sorry.
Oh,
Sorry.
the Snorf Protocol, it's called.
The Snorf Protocol. Oh my God. And like maybe the third film could just be Snorfed. Like
Then Snorf in space. Then he gets a time machine. Oh, that'll be amazing.
Oh
Absolutely.
yeah, Snorf in space. Yeah, that's the tricky fourth one. I kind of, it can kind of be like the Hellraiser films. They just get more.
Oh God, yeah, was it the fourth Hellraiser that's in space or the fifth? I can't even remember.
I can't remember.
Oh,
They get really mad. I mean, Jesus Christ, they get so mad. Thank you very much, Stuart, for chatting. Everyone, please subscribe on Spotify as well as YouTube. This has been Hot Pod Time Machine. I'm Claire. This is Stuart, and we'll see you again next time. Take care. Bye.
Cheers. Bye-bye.
Hot Time Machine.